I was warned not to take the night shift at Red Bluff Storage. But the pay was too good, and the rules, well, they were too strange to take seriously. Now I sit in a locked booth every night, watching cameras flicker, listening to screams that shouldn't exist. And every time I break a rule, something gets out. Asterisk, you ever hear a scream that didn't come from any living creature? One that rattles your bones and makes your brain feel like it's bleeding? That's the kind of scream I hear every damn night at Red Bluff Storage. And I'm not allowed to leave my post. Rule number 1. Never unlock Unit 237, no matter how much it begs. Unit, I should have known the job was cursed when I read the contract. It was on real paper, thick, yellowed parchment that smelled like old blood and copper. No email, no HR, just a man in a dusty black suit who slid the paper across a concrete table and said, "Sign here. And don't ask questions you don't want answers to." The place was called Red Bluff Storage, about 15 miles outside Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Nothing around but empty fields, windmills creaking in the dark, and a whole lot of black sky that I needed the money that didn't ask about. The pay. Didn't ask why every employee before me lasted less than a month that I just signed. The Joby work midnights to 7 a.m. My office is a steel-reinforced observation booth, smack in the middle of the compound. The storage units, about 300 of them, stretch in every direction like a maze. Each unit is armed with motion sensors, electromagnetic locks, internal microphones, and backup generators. And no, they don't store furniture. They store something else. When I got the rulebook, it was handwritten in red ink, titled simply, Containment Protocol, Red Bluff Storage, Warden copy, no company letterhead. Just 10 rules, most of them ridiculous. I remember the second one. Rule number 2. If the lights in Unit 114 flicker 3 times, press the red button under your desk. Then count to 66 and pray. Night 1, I'd only been there 2 hours when the lights in Unit 114 flickered. Once that I stared at the CCTV feed. It was grainy, like an old VHS tape, but I could see the lights stutter again. Twice that I hesitated, sweat starting to bead under my collar. Was this real? A test? Some kind of joke? The third flicker happened, and I pressed the button. The monitor screen turned pure white for a second. All the feeds scrambled. My ears filled with a high-pitched static that made me gag. I started counting aloud. 24, 25, 26. At 32, I heard something knock on the side of my observation booth. It wasn't human. It dragged what sounded like claws down the steel-reinforced wall. My flashlight died. The monitors shut off, and my nose started bleeding. When I got to 66, everything stopped. Morning debrief at 7:01 a.m. Sharp. The front gate creaked open, and a black SUV pulled up. A man in a white lab coat and mirrored glasses stepped out. He didn't say hello. He just asked, "Did you press the red button?" I nodded. He scribbled something in a notebook and said, "Good. That thing in Unit 114's still half asleep. You're lucky. Most new hires don't press it in time." I asked him what the hell was in there. He didn't smile. Nothing that should exist on this side of reality. Unit 237. The begging. By my third week, I was numb to the screams. The sounds of banging, sobbing, whispering, chanting. But one night, I started hearing something else. A voice. Soft. Female. Clearer than the others. Coming from Unit 237. "Please, it's cold in here. I can't feel my legs. Please open the door. I won't hurt you." It sounded like someone. I knew. I turned up the mic sensitivity. The voice whimpered and then started reciting my name. First name. Last name. My mother's name. My ex-girlfriend's name. My social security number. I turned off the mic. Rule number 1 said never to unlock it. But that night, I walked out of the booth, holding the master key in my trembling hand. The memory trap. I stood in front of Unit 237. Cold sweat down my back. The voice from inside was crying now. "Jason, it's me, you remember? Summer camp. The lake. You saved me from drowning." I hadn't told anyone that story in 20 years. My hand reached for the lock. Then I felt it. A shadow behind me. Not a person. Not an animal. Something cold. Ancient. Its breath blew against my ear like rotting ice. And I heard another voice. This one inside my head. "If you open that door, you become what's inside." I dropped the key and ran back to the booth. Rule number 3. If you hear your own voice on the intercom, mute the feed immediately. Do not respond. Week 5 things escalated. Storage Unit 199 began to bleed from its seams. Black fluid poured onto the gravel, forming symbols. The cameras glitched every night at 3:33 a.m. One night, I saw myself on camera, standing in Unit 5, but I was in the booth. I rewound the tape 5 times. Each time, my doppelganger stared directly at the camera, then pointed at the booth, and whispered something I couldn't hear. When I enhanced the audio the next day, all I heard was one sentence repeated: "There's no such thing as Red Bluff Storage." The cleaners every Thursday, around 2:15 a.m., a van pulls into the compound. 4 men in hazmat suits step out. I'm told to look away when they enter Units 8, 44, 202, and 237. If I look, they'll reset me. I looked once. One of them wasn't wearing a suit that he looked like me, except his mouth stretched to his ears, and he had too many teeth. His eyes were holes, dripping black sludge. That he smiled and waved. Rule number 7. If you see yourself outside the booth, lock the doors, turn off all monitors, and hide under the desk. Do not speak. Do not breathe. The escape attempt. A new warden named Luis joined. He was ex-military. Didn't believe in weird shit. On his 4th night, he said, "Screw these rules. I'm gonna open one and see what they're hiding." I begged him not to. He didn't listen. He opened Unit 13. The screaming started instantly. Blood sprayed across the compound cameras. I saw him fly backward into the wall like a rag doll. His body exploded. They never found his head. That unit has been sealed in concrete since. Rule number 10. You may request termination from the job, but your replacement must sign willingly. If not, you're here forever. Chapter ends with, "Now it's been 6 months. My hair's turning white. I bleed from my eyes sometimes. I don't dream anymore, because something inside the dreams chases me back into waking, and still, every night, I hear the voice from Unit 237 whispering, 'I'm your only way out, Jason. Just open the door.' But I won't, because I know now, the real rule is the one they never wrote down. Don't trust what begs. Don't trust what screams. And whatever you do, never think you're alone here. You ever hear something that doesn't belong in your world? Not in a horror movie, ghost howl kind of way. I mean a sound so wrong, your body rejects it, like your stomach drops, and your skin flushes hot, and your brain screams to shut it out before it gets inside. That's what I heard on night 184. They never warned me about the sound, because there was no rule for it, and the only things that don't have rules at Red Bluff are the things not meant to exist. 00:13 a.m. A new tone. The first time I heard it, it was faint, like a flute. Not a flute, something pretending to be a flute. Like it was mimicking instruments based on bad memories of what music sounded like. The note came from Unit 199. A unit that hasn't made a sound in 6 years, not since it bled out all over the gravel during that containment breach. I muted the audio feed. Thought maybe it was interference, but the sound didn't stop. It got louder, more shrill, until the metal walls around my booth began to vibrate, until the lights flickered in a sequence I'd never seen before. Long, short, short, long, long, pause. Then my intercom activated on its own, and something whispered, "That's the sound that opens all locks." 0:26 a.m. The camera that blinked. My hands were already trembling, sweat seeping from my palms onto the console controls. I double-checked the locks on the booth. Reinforced steel, 5-point deadbolt, bulletproof, heat-sealed. That didn't matter, because one of the monitors, CM05, blinked, not glitched. It blinked like an eye. The screen twisted inward, pupil-like, then restabilized. I pulled the power. That didn't work. Then every monitor blinked in sync. All 22 feeds. Then something new happened. A new feed appeared. CM23. There is no CM23. CM23. Unknown location. The image was grainy, dimly lit. Looked like a hallway of rotting wood, stretching endlessly. There were no storage units in view. No doors. Just a black and white feed of a hallway, with strange symbols carved into the walls. And at the end of that hallway was me. Same uniform. Same hair. Same twitch in the left eye I developed from too many Red Bull-fueled shifts. But this version of me was standing still, motionless, head tilted slightly down, arms hanging limp at his sides. And on the wall behind him, in large scrawled red letters, it said, Someone already opened it. My mouth went dry because I hadn't opened anything. Not yet. 1:06 a.m. Rule number 11 appears. The rulebook had always had 10 rules. Always. But tonight, the back page had a new entry that I didn't add it. No one had access to the booth but me. I turned the page, hands shaking. Written in smeared, fresh red ink. Rule number 11. If you hear the song of the hollow flute, go to Unit 199 immediately and knock 3 times. If the knock is returned, seal the booth and pray. If not, it's already loose. I looked at Unit 199 on the monitor. The lights inside were now pulsing, slow, like a heartbeat. The song continued, now accompanied by whispers layered backward, like dozens of voices chanting in reverse. I stood up and against all survival instincts, I stepped out of the booth. 1:13 a.m. Walking the black road, the night air was sharp, windless. Still, the gravel beneath my boots made almost no sound. Even the cicadas had gone silent. As I approached Unit 199, I saw the padlock vibrating, not from the outside, but like something inside was humming. I counted 1.2.3. Knock. 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 Silence. Then knock. Once, then twice, then a long, dragging sound, like something with nails or bone was scraping against the inside of the door. I turned and ran, but not back to the booth, because I realized something worse. The booth lights were off. The monitors were black, and someone was standing inside it, watching me. 1:22 a.m. The lock breaks. I sprinted back down the corridor, lungs burning, vision shaking. The booth door opened on its own. A shape, vague and flickering like static, stood inside, wearing my uniform, holding my face. Not just similar, identical. He turned to the monitors and pressed a button. All locks disengaged. The entire storage facility hissed to life as every unit began to unseal. Red lights flashed. Alarm sirens triggered, then cut out as if they'd been eaten alive. Then the ground began to rumble. 1:31 a.m. The unsealing Unit 001 opened first. A burst of foul, acidic steam poured out. Screams followed, like 1,000 rats screaming in unison. Unit 013 cracked open, spilling maggots of light. Tiny creatures made of vibrating white threads that crawled along the fences, rewriting reality as they passed. Unit 237? It didn't open. It collapsed inward, like a black hole had formed, in a shape with too many arms, too many teeth, and no real eyes crawled out, dragging behind it a cloak made of human tongues. It turned toward me and smiled. Not maliciously, like it recognized me, like I was meant to be there. 1:50 a.m. The loop revelation. I hid behind an overturned generator near the back row, watching the facility tear itself apart. That's when I saw CM23 again. My phone buzzed. Screen lit up, new feed, live feed. CM23. Still that hallway. And at the end of the hallway, the other me looked up, now bleeding from the eyes, and he said, "We never stopped it. We only pressed pause. And now it's unpausing. Again." Suddenly, memories rushed back. Memories of pressing the red button hundreds of times, of seeing Unit 237 open. Again and again. Of waking up in the booth like nothing happened. Over and over. A containment loop that I hadn't been working 6 months. I'd been working this shift for 6 years. 2:12 a.m. The memory kill switch. A sharp buzz cracked through the night. The cleaners were here. Black van. Same men in hazmat suits. But this time, they weren't cleaning. They were hunting. They walked straight toward the booth and dragged the other me out. He kicked and screamed and shouted, "I'm the real one. I'm the one who followed the rules." They didn't care. They put a sack over his head, injected him with something thick and gold, and threw him into the van. One of the cleaners turned toward where I was hiding and spoke without looking. "If you saw that, it's your turn next." 2:26 a.m. Escape attempt #3. I ran. I don't know why. You can't leave Red Bluff Storage. It's not just a place. It's a circle, a loop, a curse, a prison. But I ran anyway. Out the gate, down the highway, into the cornfields. I made it 2 miles before the road vanished beneath my feet. And I found myself standing back, inside the booth. Same monitors, same lights, same red button under the desk, same rulebook. Only now, it has 12 rules. Rule number 12. If you realize the loop, burn the rulebook. But only if you're willing to forget everything, including your name. And now I sit here, fingers trembling, staring at the fire alarm switch that doubles as the manual incineration trigger. Oh, I burn it. Do I forget? Do I press reset? Because if I don't, that song from Unit 199 is starting again. And this time, I think it's calling all the locks. Not just ours. You ever wonder if you're the real one? If your body is still yours? If your memories actually happened, or were downloaded into you like corrupted files from a different life? Because tonight, at Red Bluff, I stopped trusting every memory I had. The moment I stared at the blank page where rule number 13 should have been, I realized it wasn't that the rule wasn't written, it was that I had written it before. Many, many times. And something erased at 2:44 a.m. The erased rule, the rulebook page looked soaked. As if something had bled out words, letters. Faded like flesh peeled from bone. I blinked, and for just a fraction of a second, I saw them. Not words. Commands, not for me, but for it. When the Warden becomes self-aware, activate Memory Drain Protocol 44B, loop memory. Erase timeline residue. And just like that, the page went blank again. I touched my finger stung like I dipped it in battery acid. A smell of ozone filled the booth. My fingernail turned black. Then I heard it, a child's laugh. Soft, giggling. From behind the steel booth wall. I turned and saw myself again. As a 10-year-old child. 2:45 a.m. The red-eyed boy, he was me. Exactly. Me, at 10 years old. Standing outside the booth window. Wearing the same red hoodie my mom got me in 2002. The one I lost in a lake trip I barely remembered. His eyes weren't eyes, just burning pits of crimson light. And when he smiled, I felt my heart stop. Not skip. Stop. I gasped, and he pointed to the gravel. There, scratched with fingernails into the stone. You're not the first Jason. You're the 37th. Then he vanished, running. No flicker, just blinked out of frame. Like an error in reality had been corrected. 3:00 a.m. The first emergency broadcast for the first time in 6 months, or 6 years, or 37 loops. Whatever the truth is, the facility speakers buzzed. They never buzz. But tonight, they screamed at a woman's voice. Robotic, distorted, twisting in pitch like it was rotting mid-sentence. Rang through every corner of Red Bluff. Containment breach. Full protocol override. Warden has achieved pattern recognition. Initiate. Red rule. Red rule. Red rule. Then static. Then silence. And then, the monitors turned red. All of them. 3:02 a.m. The red rule room, every light in the facility blinked out. Except one. Unit 000. The only unit that was never on the map. Never listed. Never powered. Until now. It glowed. Blood red. Like it was alive. I didn't think. I grabbed the emergency flashlight, the rulebook, the master key. Narration. My breath was fogging even in the summer heat. My boots crunched on glass that hadn't been there before, and above me, the sky wasn't black anymore. It was gray, veined, pulsing, like I was beneath a giant lid. Inside something skull. 3:08 a.m. The door with no handle. Unit 000 didn't have a handle. It had a slot. A vertical slit, like something needed to be inserted to gain access. On instinct, I pulled the rulebook from my jacket and slid it in. The metal groaned, the air vibrated, and then the ground beneath me gave way. 3:09 a.m. The sublevel. I fell, not down, in, like reality folded inward, and I was pulled through a throat. I landed on stone. Black stone, wet, breathing, and I saw them. The wardens, all of them, standing in a massive circle around a stone altar. 36 of them, each with my face, some older, some mutilated, one headless, one on fire but not burning. They turned to look at me in unison and said, 13 isn't a rule. 13 is a door. Then they pointed behind me, and I saw at 3:13 a.m. the door. That bleeds a stone slab. 12 symbols carved around the frame. A 13th in the center, pulsing like a heart. From its seams leaked black blood. Thick, alive. The air tasted like burnt plastic and spoiled meat. And from the door came whispers, familiar ones. My mom's voice. My first girlfriend's laugh. My dog's bark. All of them stitched together in a tapestry of false comfort. But underneath it all, a second voice, older, dry, soaked in time. You are the lock and the key, and you have always been mine. 3:18 a.m. The breaking of time. The other wardens circled me now, and one, Warden number 17, the one missing half his skull, stepped forward. He handed me something. A mirror, but when I looked inside, I didn't see my reflection. I saw a prison cell. And inside it, the real me, not the Jason standing here. The one from the first timeline. The one who had a life. Friends. Dreams. He was screaming, pounding on glass. I touched the mirror. And time fractured. 3:19 a.m. The feedback collapsed suddenly. I was in all timelines at once. I was signing the contract for the first time. Getting eaten alive by Unit 114. Opening 237 and letting her out. Walking into the booth and seeing myself in the chair. Being dragged away by cleaners. Laughing inside Unit 199. Standing at my mother's funeral. Screaming from inside the mirror. Everything collapsed. And in the moment of collapse, I understood what Rule 13 had been. The unspoken rule. The rule that ends the loop. The rule that no one's ever supposed to read. 3:23 a.m. The real Rule 13 carved. Now into my arm, bleeding red through my uniform, not written groan. Rule 13. When the lock becomes aware, the warden must choose, forget, or become. 3:25 a.m. The final choice. I stood at the altar, the door still pulsing. The other wardens watching, waiting. I could walk back. Let myself forget. Go back into the loop. Live another 6 months, or 6 years, as just another Jason. Or open. The 13th door. Become something not human. Become what watches. What contains. What enforces the rules when there are no more rules. I placed my hand on the symbol, and the door opened. 3:33 a.m. The other side. It wasn't hell. It wasn't heaven. It was outside. Outside time. Outside choice. Outside everything human. A gray void, filled with massive chained beings. Ancient things. Eyes the size of solar systems. Voices that created gravity. And in the center, red Bluff Storage. Floating, repeating, feeding. A machine built. Not to contain monsters, but to train the ones who would replace them. I looked down at my hands, and they weren't flesh anymore. They were code, bone, memory, flame. I was now part of it. The new Warden Prime. 3:34 a.m. One last transmission. The cameras at Red Bluff flickered. A new warden woke up in the booth. Young guy. Nervous. Confused. He looked around, and the rulebook slid onto the table in front of him. 10 rules. All normal. Except this time, page 13 was torn out, and on the monitor above him, my face appeared. I smiled and whispered, "Press the red button when the lights flicker, kid. And don't ask about Rule 13. You'll find out soon enough. To maintain order, you must contain the chaos. But once the chaos recognizes the warden, the container becomes the content." That phrase has echoed in my mind ever since I stepped through the 13th door, since I became the new Warden Prime. But now, something has changed. The facility is shifting, the loop is failing, and something older than Red Bluff, older than time, is waking up beneath the foundations. Its name is written in blood beneath every unit. Its face is made of mirrors. Its body is built from every warden who came before me, and it remembers everything. 3 o'clock, 3:45 a.m. False morning. A pink hue appeared on the horizon, not the sun.it. Was too early for sunrise, and yet the sky was blushing like dawn was bleeding through, a hue more meat-colored than warm. The new warden, Isaac Miller, Unit 38 on the warden cycle, stood in the booth. Staring at it. I watched from the red layer, a realm where all timelines converge like tangled wires. He picked up the rulebook. 10 rules, same old format. But when he flipped the last page, he found something strange. A note, scrawled in my handwriting. "You're not guarding the creatures, Isaac. They're guarding what's buried beneath them." And in that moment, Isaac looked up, and the booth was gone. 3 o'clock, 3:46 a.m. The shift begins. Red Bluff began to move. Not metaphorically, I mean the entire compound lifted off its foundations by some unseen, eldritch mechanism. Steel tore like paper. Concrete bled dust and memories. Units rotated. Storage rose twisted into labyrinths. The sky broke open into a crimson dome, swirling with symbols that burned the eye. And in the center, a chasm opened at a pit that was never mapped, never mentioned. The heart of Red Bluff? And from that pit crawled the original warden, the one they tried to bury, the first man who made the rules. His name was erased from time, but I remember it now. His name was Aaron Thorne. Scroll Aaron Thorne. The first warden in 1936, he was just a janitor, assigned to maintain an underground government facility, the original Red Bluff. Until he witnessed something he shouldn't have, a containment breach involving Subject Zero. A mirror that reflects your true nature rather than your appearance. That he gazed into it too long, and in doing so, he became something else. That he started writing rules that weren't his. He began speaking in languages no one could record. He began changing reality just by willing it. The government tried to seal him inside Unit 000. Didn't work. He became Red Bluff, his consciousness embedded in the layout, the rules, the very dust in the air. And tonight, he walked back out. 3 o'clock. 3:52 a.m. The reversal protocol. Alarms triggered that no one installed. A voice override echoed across every loudspeaker. Warden Prime. Activate reversal protocol Cinder 9. I hesitated, because Cinder 9 wasn't in the rulebook. It wasn't written anywhere. It existed only in me. I knew activating it would burn the entire facility, erase all data, collapse every storage unit into itself, a nuclear-level memory purge. But it would also release everything locked inside. No more containment, no more loops, no more wardens. Just the world and the monsters. 3 o'clock, 3:56 a.m. The voice beneath everything. Before I could decide, Aaron Thorne spoke, not out loud, into my mind. His voice was dry, velvet, patient. You can't burn what's already ash. You are not their savior. You're their replacement. Step aside. Let the cycle rot. Let the truth return to the surface. The earth shook violently. Unit 237 exploded open. A creature emerged. 6 mouths. No eyes. A body made of stitched regrets. IT stared at the booth and smiled. IT had seen this moment before. I end every loop. Every reset. Every new warden. Because they all end here. 3 o'clock, 4 a.m. Loop terminal. Cinder 9 initiated. My hands moved on their own. I pressed the command into the master console. Inside the red layer, frowny face. Activate Cinder 9. The air began to shimmer. The units began collapsing. Reality curled inward like burning paper. One by one, the creatures turned toward me. Not in anger, in recognition. Because they knew. They remembered that I wasn't just a warden anymore. I was the last gate. And they were ready to be free. 3 o'clock, 4:06 a.m. Isaac's decision. Back in the normal plane, Isaac, the current booth warden, was watching the place crumble. He looked at the rulebook, now blank. Then at the monitor. My face appeared. Tired. Bleeding. Ancient. I said one thing. You can run. Or you can become. He didn't reply. He stood up, walked outside, faced the pit, and jumped in. 3 o'clock, 4:10 a.m. Unsealing the world. The chasm pulsed once more. A sound echoed from below. The same hollow flute tone that started this mess. But this time, it didn't open the units. It opened the world. Cracks formed in the sky. In the AI or in language itself. Words failed. Meaning unraveled. And from the sky fell mirrored shards. Pieces of other timelines. Other Red Bluffs. Other wardens who'd made different choices. And all of them collapsed into me. 3 o'clock, 4:14 a.m. Ascension of the Warden Prime. I stood on the rubble. 37 past versions of me now fused inside my body. Every death. Every reset. Every false escape. And I remembered Rule 0. The one they never tell you. When all the doors are open, the warden must decide. Rebuild or release. I chose the third option. Rewrite. 3 o'clock, 4:16 a.m. The new rules as the world fractured. I rewrote the book, not in ink, in blood, in thought, in existence. A new rulebook etched itself into the fabric of space. Just 4 rules, and they were not meant to contain anything. They were designed to warn. Scroll the final 4 rules of Red Bluff. Do not follow the music. It is not playing for you. If you see your reflection blink, look away. That's not glass. That's a door. Every storage unit is a memory, and memories can bleed. There is no warden anymore. Only the watcher. 3 o'clock, 4:20 a.m. The final broadcast. The world is quiet now. What's left of Red Bluff floats in a static haze. Somewhere between dimensions. I sit atop the ruins. Eyes glowing. Skin flickering like VHS static. mouth stitched shut, because truth no longer needs words. And from every abandoned speaker in every ghost town across America, a final broadcast echoes. This is a message for the next Jason. You are not alone. You never were. And when the lights flicker 3 times, don't press the red button. It's already too late.